Lewis, who's a Labour MP for Norwich South, and a journalist and NUJ member of former Father of Chapel, the BBC in Norfolk, former TV reporter, like as was Marc Wadsworth, now an active member as an MP of the NUJ parliamentary group, who's known Marc for years. And take it away, Clive.
Thank you. And I obviously don't have the award with me to be able to hand over to Marc.
No, Marc has the award. We can't
Marc
do it.
has the award already.
Yeah, so we can't do it. We can't do it online. Sorry.
I'm superfluous then. Marc already has the award. So, Marc, where are you? Can you make yourself known so I can?
Yes, I'm here, Clive. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can see you. Can I see the
award? Can you see the award?
That looks fantastic. I wish we could have done it in person because I would like to you. But that's lovely to see. Thank you very much. So, I mean, obviously, it kind of feels like a bit of This Is Your Life. Kind of music is required. But, I mean, Marc, I've known you since you first came up to me when I was an activist in NUS at Black Students, and you came to tell me, you haven't been around for very long, have you? But I can tell you the history of the Black student movement and what's been going on, and you need to listen to me, because if you don't listen to me, then you're going to have a lot of problems. Well, it's never stopped. I've never stopped listening to you, and I've never stopped having problems. So I'm not sure whether they're connected in any way. But I've known you for a long time. You've been a comrade for a long time. I've got a great deal of respect for you. You sometimes bang on my door very loudly, but you know what? My aunt had an expression, which is that the squeaky wheel is the wheel that gets oiled. And you've had a lot of my oil, and that's good, though, because you deserve that oil. You deserve that attention because you're always busy. You're always active. You're always striving. And you're always looking forward for the next campaign, the next way that you can educate people, the next documentary that you're going to do, the next campaign you're going to set up. You are a natural activist, Marc. And looking through your background, your history, and I'm going to talk through to the rest of the members here who may not be aware of Marc's background, that it's a very impressive background. This is a well-deserved award for someone who hasn't just been a member for a long time. They've been an activist and trade unionist, and they've been fighting for members of the NUJ for a long time in a variety of ways. So I'm just going to talk through a little bit about Marc's background, and then I will, I think, kind of open it back up to the meeting and conclude. But Marc's known nationally as a campaigner against racism. As I said, I first met him in the Black Students campaign. He's a lifelong trade unionist with a track record at every level of the NUJ. He joined the union in 1973 as an indentured reporter on the Surrey Advertiser in Guildford. And early on, he had a really tough story, we're told, as a 19-year-old one of the first on the scene on the horrific scene of the IRA Guildford bombings in October 1974. And moving to the Surrey Herald, a group of weeklies, he took part in a great provincial newspaper strike of 1978 to 79. He started a shift onto national papers, including the Daily Mirror, where he got to know celebrated reporters like Paul Foote and John Pilger, whom I believe was going to make the presentation tonight, but he isn't able to be with us because he's unwell. So I am a stand-in, and I'm quite happy with that to be a stand-in. He landed a job at BBC Radio London as a reporter on its iconic Black Londoners nightly programme. And in 1981, he went to work as a TV reporter at Thames Television, then the biggest ITV station. And this is where he cut his teeth as the NUJ Father of Chapel and chairman of the Joint Shop Stewards Committee, representing around 2,500 staff. Now, I can't even begin to think about what representing 2,500 staff is like. That's a massive responsibility. I was a chapel father. I was responsible for perhaps 100 or so people, but 2,500 people is on a scale that I can barely imagine. And that was a very powerful position. And Marc was someone who stood up for his members. And when those unions came out against the Conservative government, based on their attacks on Thames Television, based on the documentary Death on the Rock, where those 4 unarmed IRA activists were gunned down by the SAS, he led the charge in defending his members. Ultimately, the government won the day. They didn't allow Thames Television to carry on. They closed it down. Many of his members lost their jobs, but Marc lost his as well. He was there on the front line with his colleagues, with his members whom he represented. And I think you had a hard time after that, Marc. It was tough to find work. I'm not going to say you were blacklisted, but it sounds something very close to that for your political activism, and maybe you were. You then went through the period working as a freelancer. You did various bits of work for the NUJ. You worked on the NUJ Race Relations Working Party. You took up the issue of the black member section inside the Labour Party, and you have been a political activist across a wide variety of issues. You've also written a book, I know, a recent book on one of the first black MPs in this place. You are someone who is still making documentaries. You've made one recently for the BBC. You may want to tell us what that was. I can't quite record it, but I know you were telling me it was a very interesting documentary. You are someone who has been on the front line, Marc, someone who has been a genuine comrade to so many people. You've really put yourself on the line for people. And I think the NUJ should be proud to have you and proud to have your service for all of these decades. So thank you very much for all you've done, comrade. And thank you for all you're going to do. I'm sure your best years are in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clive. I think we can clap. Unmute yourselves and clap.
You're muted, Jan.
That was great. I'm going to ask in a moment if anyone else wants to add it. But first, Marc, would you like to respond on receiving a NUJ Gold Badge?
I've won a few awards over the years. It sounds like a bit of a cheesy cliche, but this is actually the best one. I put in a lot of years. I started off as a teenager in journalism, as you heard Brother Clive mention. I was on the front line, literally baptism of fire at the Guildford bombings, the Horse and Groom and the Seven Stars. I was the first reporter on the scene. And, you know, if anybody was going to quit journalism and say that they're not cut out for this kind of lifestyle, that was my moment. But I stuck with it. And then 4 years later, I was on the picket line, the provincial newspapers strike. Bloody hell, it was cold. That was December, and it was a winter. We had braziers, and we warmed our hands, and members of the public showed their support by bringing us food and, you know, clapping. And, you know, this is way before the NHS, when people went on their doorsteps and clapped. So I have had a lifetime of success, really, in journalism as a result of being a member of this fine union. Back in the day, we had something called a closed shop. And in order to get a job, you had to belong to a union. So I willingly joined the NUJ. I became a father of the chapel, as Clive has mentioned, and represented members, and was a part of the strike at ITV when the ACTT, our sister union, the technicians union, went on strike. And then TVAM. Some of you will remember the battle we had when Margaret Thatcher and her government tried to attack this highly unionized sector of industry. And then Wapping after that. We've had setbacks, but we have had also successes. If you think of, you know, what's happened in the NewsQuest sector, where we won pay rises. Yes, there are attacks still going on against the BBC, against the quality of journalism, against provincial journalism, against national journalism in terms of jobs. But we fight on, and I'm very proud to have been a member of the London freelance branch for many, many years, to have comrades like Jenny Vaughan, who I served on the National Executive Committee of the NUJ for 2 terms, as a great ally and supporter. And I have to mention Deborah Hobson and Tim Gopson for having persevered in getting me this award. This is second time of asking. 2 years ago, I was turned down for a life member position. There has been opposition. Some of you may know that I had some problems with the Labour Party and was expelled in 2018, wrongly, unjustly, having been suspended in 2016. And I have to say that Clive Lewis was one of only 3 MPs that stuck their necks out and supported me during that awful time in which I was hung out to dry and kind of went through a terrible trial by media and then that expulsion. But we've fought through all of that and we've succeeded. And we continue to fight for Julian Assange, for instance. You know, that's an important cause. I was very lucky to spend some time with his wife, Stella. When I was up in Liverpool, we were up in Liverpool for Labour Party conference last year. And we shared a house together with his children, who she brought along. And so we've struck up a friendship, and it's given me an insight into that injustice and why we must fight for Julian's freedom. I'm not going to say much more than that. I'm just honoured, and I'm going to raise a glass here of Prosecco for this award. If I was with you, I'd buy you a round of drinks. And to thank the branch for being a stalwart supporter, not just of me, but some of the causes, the Citizen Journalism Educational Trust, the Liberation Movement. The LFB has always been in the corner in the fight for justice and supported campaigns that I have attempted to further, including the Justice for Stephen Lawrence campaign, where I was able to introduce the parents, Doreen and Neville Lawrence, to Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. Thank you, London Freelance Branch. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, all of you, for this magnificent award, the Gold Badge Award.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm going to be very brief. I've worked with Mark on so many different things over the years. We have not always seen eye to eye on things, and there's been a lot of kind of turmoil in the really strong anti-racist campaigning that Mark's been involved in. I used to be the NUJ official that worked with the Black Members Council, and those were really heavy times then. But I must say, I always found Mark a decent, positive, constructive person to work with. Would anybody else like to make a little tribute to Mark?
I will, Tim. Just
yeah, okay.
That's Deborah. Yes, no, thank you. Well, thank you, Tim, actually, for your perseverance in ensuring that Mark is honoured in this way. And thank you for Clive for his great words about Mark and, you know, trying to provide a summary of all of Mark's achievements in journalism and the field of politics. I've known Mark for over 20 years. And in that time, I have to say that, you know, he's been a great mentor. I've learned so much from him, not only politically, but journalistically. He's been encouraging, a great motivator, always pushing me to achieve more and to excel. He's been a tough boss, taskmaster, but you know, we've done some good, really great work together. In terms of journalism, citizen journalism, and documentary film, and recently radio. You know, I think we're just going to carry on working together, achieving great things, and I'm really pleased that we could honour him in this way this evening.
Thanks, Deborah. Jenny?
Well, I don't want to say much because everybody else has said everything, but I've worked with Mark in the past, and I've always found him such a good and supportive friend, and I'm really glad that he's had this award. And that's really all I've got to say, and to thank him for mentioning me, which was a really nice thing to do. That
is fine, thank you. I'm going to ask Clive just to sum up in a moment, but first I think we should tell Clive that I think his mum was might have been a bit of a plagiarist about if you squeak you get the oil. It was actually Malcolm X who said that. It was Malcolm X who said it's the squeaking hinge that gets the grease.
Ooh.
One of the many profound remarks.
Wouldn't be the first thing
he made. Yeah.
The first thing members of my family have taken from either Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali. There's a number of things that they've used before, but yeah. Sorry, Mark, you've taken this award with your customary grace and humility. I think as a former member of the NUJ, I'm probably going to get myself into trouble for saying that now. I'm in other unions now, but as a former member of the NUJ, I think I can say thank you on behalf of the people here tonight for all that you've done, for taking that award. I hope you wear that badge with pride. It's definitely well deserved. And I think as well, many of the people here, I think the turnout tonight, and I don't know what your turnouts are normally, but as Zoom meetings go, this is a very well turned out meeting. I think that says something about the fact that people are having part come here to see you given this award. So thank you from me, and thank you, I think, from all of them for all you've done and for all you will continue to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Clive. It's very much appreciated. As Clive said himself, he did stand in at quite short notice only a week ago. John Pilger, the famous reporter, had agreed to do this, but was taken to hospital a week ago. And Clive very promptly stepped in, and we're really pleased about that. Thanks very much. We might invite you back to another meeting some other time, Clive, to talk about being an NUJ MP in Parliament and working for journalists in Parliament. But for now, thanks very much for giving us the time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just quickly, Chair, to say that the programmes that Deborah and I have made are Fighting for King and Empire, Britain's Caribbean Heroes. If I don't know whether you could type that in the chat, Deborah. That came out in 2015 and was narrated by David Alashoga, who went on to bigger and better things after that in his career. And then last summer on BBC Radio 4, we did a docudrama called The Amazing Life of Alaudo Equiano. So I might be blocked in some quarters, but not at the BBC yet.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for that. That was really good, a really nice occasion.
Yes, thank you.
Let's, but now I was very pleased to notice that Nika, our social media officer, thanked Clive for the speech. So no doubt this will be whizzing out on Twitter.
Yes.
Get the word around. Thanks very much.
Okay. Are you wearing the badge, Mark?
Yes. Can we see it? I noticed Alistair.
You see the badge. It's not easy to show.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yes.
It's not a lapel badge sort of thing. It's a...
Yeah, that's right. Yes, but the main thing is the certificate. Isn't that a magnificent certificate?
Oh, yes. No badge award.
It reads NUJ Gold Badge Award in honour of Marc Wadsworth, whoever he is.
Yes, I'm sticking on the wall.
Yes. Thank you, colleagues.
Thanks.
When we resume live meetings, we'll stick it on the wall on the screen behind there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.